We all know a few guys like this, right? That only play sports games. Every single year we get the new FIFA, the new Madden, the new 2K. They're just sports games guys. They don't venture out of their comfort zone. They're willing to pay $60 for the roster update every single year. These guys, I like to consider basic. All right. So these guys, I'm going to recommend a nice one.
What's up, everybody? I'm Nick.
And I'm Jake,
This is Internet Gaming News Show.
presented by Midwest Gaming Republic.
It's the first episode of 2021 for Internet Gaming News Show. We have an awesomely packed show with a fun segment up first. Jake, tell everyone what we're getting into today.
First episode of 2021. Here we go. First, we're talking about different pairings of alcohol and video games. It's going to be an interesting segment. It's pretty fun. I might throw something controversial in there. We'll see. Next, we're going to talk about a huge new esports arena that's being built. We'll get more into that in a little bit. And lastly, we're going to talk about games introducing honor systems and reputation systems and what that means for the future of video games and online play. So that's our packed show today. I think we're ready to get into it, Nick. Let's go. Internet Gaming News. All right. So this week we have something kind of fun. Nick and I had been thinking there's lots of different types of video games, right? Lots of genres, different types of games, lots of different types of alcohol. We thought it'd be fun to pair up different games or genres with different types of alcohol. So that's what we're going to do today. We're going to look at some of the major games, major genres, and what kind of alcohol that you'd be drinking while you're playing those games.
And Jake and I will be your bartender for this evening. So let us know if you need anything.
Let's get going. So first off, we've got nice, relaxing RPG games like Cyberpunk, like Mass Effect, maybe even like a Fallout. Games where you have a lot of conversation. It's kind of like watching a movie. So I think what pairs nicely with this type of game would be a nice red wine, maybe a cab, maybe a Merlot. Endless options of red wine to pair with your relaxing experience of an RPG video game where you get to sit back, listen to the characters talk, and build your story as you casually sip your nice glass of red. Next, we have games where you actually have to get up and go outside, like Pokemon Go, Ingress, Wizards Unite, mobile games that make you get up off your couch and go walk around outside. And at this time of year, in the winter, when it's cold out, in Wisconsin at least, and you still, you got to go out and you got to grind, you got to play your game, you need a nice shot of whiskey. Shot of whiskey sits in your belly, warms you up, keeps you nice and toasty in your winter coat as you're walking around, catching your Pokemon, spinning your Pokeballs around. Nick and I specifically have some experience with this for Pokemon Go community days, walking back to his house, taking shots of whiskey, getting back out there playing Pokemon. It's an experience I know I'll never forget, and if you try, I know you'll never forget as well. So that's why Pokemon Go pairs perfectly with a few shots of whiskey. You gotta have more than one, right?
Next, we have the games that really just ruffle your feathers. Kinds that just send shivers down your bones out of frustration. Games like Getting Over It. Games like I Want to Be the Baushi. We all know those games. The world's hardest game? Well, for these games in particular, you're going to want to pair it with a nice, refreshing bottle of Everclear. The type of liquor that'll make you forget that this night of pain and agony in gaming ever existed.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
Well said. Next, we got games like Fall Guys, Roblox, maybe a little bit of Minecraft. For these, you're going to want a nice non-alcoholic beverage, all right? I'm talking like duels, a nice stiff glass of iced tea, maybe a warm glass of milk because you're staying up one more game past your bedtime and you got to be able to go to sleep because you got school in the morning, all right? So for these type of games, something non-alcoholic, kids, please. The drinking age is 21 in the United States. So let's be responsible and have a nice non-alcoholic beverage. So next, we all know a few guys like this, right? That only play sports games. Every single year we get the new FIFA, the new Madden, the new 2K. They're just sports games guys. They don't venture out of their comfort zone. They're willing to pay $60 for the roster update every single year. These guys, I like to consider basic, all right? So these guys, I'm going to recommend a nice White Claw, okay? You're going to sit down, you're going to spend $120 on your My Team packs, and you're going to have a nice basic beverage to go with your roster update. So when you're enjoying your sports games with your boys, sit down with a nice White Claw. My recommendation.
So Shanghai, located in China, is starting construction on an $898 million esports arena, US $898 million. And it continues to push itself to be the world gaming capital.
Yeah, kind of nuts. Feels like a major milestone in the legitimacy of esports. I mean, esports is already a legitimate like event, activity, sport. Um, like with the League of Legends Finals Championship, like having more unique viewers than the Super Bowl like last year, which is just crazy. Um, but I think that I mean Shanghai's a good place for this to start. They have the world's largest esports market in the world, and like there's a statistic in this article that says that meanwhile 70% of China's 720 million gamers play esports. 70% of 720 million gamers. I mean, like how do you think like that compares to the U.S.?
Yeah. I as you and I were discussing previously, we would think that in the United States specifically, the number of competitive esports players has to be significantly less, I would say, than 70% as comparative to China. As you were just talking about the legitimacy and just the further stepping stone of China, taking the initiative to build such a I guess a pristine venue for esports specifically. I kind of began to think about more historically. I wonder if you were to look comparatively to the history of, and we often, I think, compare esports to normal sports, which I don't think is necessarily a fair comparison, but I would just be curious in terms of like the history. How long does it take to get legitimized in terms of like organizing these sorts of things? So basically, kind of what I'm saying is like, gaming has been a pretty like profound thing for a good number of years now. But obviously, as we continue to see, this sort of financial investment, I'm curious is if the timeline is kind of along the same as professional sports. Like, does it take 30, 40 years before we,
I mean,
started to see these things?
I think what it really takes is money. I mean, the money has to be there, right? Like there
Yeah,
has like that's the big thing, and like TV made it easier. Like it took sports a lot longer because they needed to get money from TV, right?
right.
And you needed to have TVs in homes of everybody to have ad revenue and all that kind of stuff. So I mean, like if the money is there, I think that that's what gives um, like professional sports and esports legitimacy. So like I know we were kind of running through a list of some
hmm
of the people who are invested in esports, and it just shows that the money, you know, like so you kind of you had a list, Nick. Who are some of the big names of people who own esports teams right now?
Yeah, you guys will definitely recognize some of these names. We're talking Mark Cuban, owner of the Dallas Mavericks, along with a bajillion other businesses.
Right.
Shaquille O'Neal, former NBA player, current TV host. MLB stars like Alex Rodriguez, NFL owners like Robert Kraft and Jerry Jones. And then, in addition to celebrities like Ashton Kutcher, Tony Robbins, who's a motivational speaker, Jennifer Lopez, aka J Lo. That's my girl. But I think, yeah, I would agree. From a technological standpoint, but then more so financial standpoint, I think is a big component of it. But going back and kind of where I would like to possibly take this in general is Do you think in the United States, in America, we will continue to see an organization, or do you think we'll continue to see an emphasis? I know that for colleges, they've continued to, organize and form, not necessarily professional, but amateur esports teams. And
Mhm.
will we continue to see that sort of growth in America? Will America, you know, rival this eventually? Because there is some stadiums, right? And we typically host in the Staples Centers located in LA, in California, the League of Legends finals.
Right, and, yes, of course, like, we're gonna continue to see this growing, having college leagues and stuff is a cool step, um, but, like, what's being built in Shanghai is, like, the next level, and I think that we're gonna see this come to America at some point. Like, right now, I was, like, kinda doing some research, and one of, like, the biggest esports dedicated locations is in Arlington, Texas. It's like an esports stadium that only seats like 2,500 people, which is just going to be so much smaller. And like
Yeah.
it took $10 million to build. And then you look at this stadium that's being built in Shanghai at $898 million. I mean, it's going to have a hotel attached. Like this is the next level in gaming, and I think that at some point the United States is going to build something like this because with this industry growing the way that it is, the money that is involved and the money that is there, and we know that's there, people are going to push to have these big events come to their towns, their states,
Yep.
their cities. And I think having a location like this, a venue like this, is what's really going to drive people to that location. And I think we're going to see more sites like this around the world, and it's going to be more of like a tour.
Yeah.
It's going to be a gaming tour.
That's actually pretty exciting to think about. Yeah,
Yeah.
personally, as a big fan of esports, competitive gaming, it really excites me to see.
Yeah. Yeah, me too. I'm looking forward to see where these things go in the future, and I mean, it's only getting bigger. It's only getting bigger right now. So
That's what she said. Jake, if you were a PUBG player,
I
what
have been.
what sort of reputation do you think you would carry? Positive or negative?
You know, Nick, I'm not like a big trash talker. And people make mistakes. I'm kind of like, hey, that's okay. We'll get them next time.
Right.
So I'm gonna say I've had a pretty good reputation. How
Yeah.
do you feel about yours?
Would you say you could give him a nice little pat on the butt?
Yeah, yeah, like definitely an athletic butt slap for sure. Just a little
Like a
get back out there, kid.
right, little good on you, kid. Put some dirt in it. We'll get him
Right,
next time.
shoot him in the face next time.
Uh, I might be a little bit more in the mixed category. I
Mm,
don't necessarily get over the top tilted, but I've been known to dabble in a little bit of the sweet talking. And by sweet, I mean being a little bit vicious, a little bit transparent in my feelings about their performance in
mhm.
conjunction with my performance.
Right.
So I might be in the mix. I might be in the mix of somewhere in the middle, maybe leaning on the other end.
Yeah. So this is like an interesting step that PUBG has taken, or is about to take in the next few weeks, including our reputation system. That pretty much gives you a number between 0 and 5, that next to your name that lets your teammates know what kind of guy you are, when you're teaming up online. And like the main reason for this is to try to cut down on toxic or otherwise disruptive behavior, is what the quote is.
Mm. Yeah,
So what do you think about this, Nick?
yeah. This has been a conversation that I know that developers have been having for a number of years now. They know, and developers specifically understand that they want to bring you in, and they know that learning the game, learning the curve, essentially understanding the meta, there's a lot that can go into it, especially when you're diving in right away. And there's a lot of really competitive, really experienced players, and often that will cause friction innately. But going back to my point is that there has been an emphasis on healthy, positive experiences because developers understand that to retain people, you need to have a good time. And if
Right.
someone like me is jumping on your back because you got your pistol out when there's a team 400 meters away, we're going to have a little bit of friction. We're going to have a conversation. So that's, I think, the main component of it. We've seen an emphasis of positivity in other areas and other games as well. Maybe not to this extent. Are there any games that we know of for sure have this reputation system? But we know of a couple games that have made similar commitments to positivity, correct?
Yeah. Games like Overwatch for sure. And I think that it, it's looking at like a positive experience as a whole, right? Where you don't want cheaters. There's been commitments to getting rid of cheaters. There's been commitments to, you know, um, having some sort of deterrent for players leaving games early,
Mm-hmm.
and like leaving your boys out to dry and like getting banned and stuff like that. So this is just like the next step in creating a safe space, I guess, within games, which I definitely understand the creation of like a reputation system, but like as you've talked about in your But Honest video that came out this week, um, trash talk is part of gaming too, right? Like there's a level of like being toxic, but then there's also like a little bit of friendly trash talk,
Yep.
and I don't think that we want that to be completely removed from video games, right?
Yeah. And I think that that's kind of where the gray line begins to transcend. It's like, well, then you have to kind of pick a side to a certain extent of like what's acceptable to say, what's unacceptable to say. And we've
Right.
seen major organizations like Twitch, they're beginning to draw a line in the sand saying, like, you can't say simp, you can't call someone a virgin. That's the reality. And there's a big conversation of like, what's acceptable, what's unacceptable. But there is a right way to trash talk. In my But Honest video, I'm going to teach you a few different ways that you can deal with different type of trash talkers and what sort of personalities they have. So check that out if that's of interest to you. But it's kind of to your point, it's kind of like a safe space, but I think obviously the bigger emphasis ultimately is like, we just want people to be enjoying themselves. I want to enjoy myself. I don't want to give someone so much crap that they don't want to play anymore. That's not the point. But there's a certain extent where like sometimes the best form of communication is honest, and sometimes it can be a little bit of wrapped up into sarcasm or, kind of, I guess, being rude to a certain extent, but it's all in fun at the end of the day. But if you're taking it to the next level, it's probably good there's a reputation system to put those people over there.
Yeah, and it looks like right now, like this reputation system isn't going to like kick you out of the game at a certain point. Like it's just it just shows your teammates what kind of person that they're teamed up with. And, I'm sure you'll be able to sort maybe by like reputation level. But we'll see where this goes in the future, and we'll see what I guess just what comes of it and how it progresses as we move forward. And so that's it for this week's episode of Internet Gaming News Show. Nick, final words.
Well, first I want to thank everybody for joining us on today's episode of Internet Gaming News Show. And for more entertainment, information, and gaming goodness, make sure to hit that like and subscribe button. Also, we would love for you guys to leave a comment down below about what you thought of any of the articles or whatever's on your mind. You can do that here, or even better, we would love it if you joined our Discord. All the links down below. And as well, we stream daily and play a variety of video games where I perform better than Jake at all times. But from Nick and Jake, under Midwest Gaming Republic, that's all from us. Good night.
Good night, everyone.